Shalom. This is Hadassah Batsaiwan, returning with part 2 of this amazing study called The End Times Prophetic Events of Yahawah. And this is part 2 of the series. There was originally a part 3, but I decided to combine it with part 2 and just have a 2-part series. Now, this second part, or final Jubilee, is a very intensive study and with some surprises, even for me. Before I get started, I'm not going to let this introduction be too long because it is a pretty long study as well. We have been listening to a lot of teachers online talking about the end times and the different events. I was one of those people that believed. I believed in the second Exodus. Not that I'm saying there isn't going to be a second Exodus, but when I studied the scriptures for myself, I realized the second Exodus is not for everyone. And you'll see that coming up even in this study. Then I heard a talk about 400 years of slavery will be up. Started in 1618, that's the year. And it was supposed to be completed in 2018. All these things I heard and I believed. I mean, why not? Everyone was talking about it. Everyone came up with the scriptural references and so on and so forth. And yeah, I took it for granted, which is not something that the Most High ever wants us to do. Just because a million people are talking about it doesn't make it true. Right? It was only after I started delving in to these scriptures myself and allowing the Ruach HaKodesh to teach me and show me, because when I look at the scriptures and I listen to what they're saying, I had a big question. And you know what the biggest question that I had? If we were supposed to be free in 2018, why are we still in bondage? Why are we still here? I thought we were supposed to be set free. That was the first thing that came to my mind. In fact, one of the many things that came to my mind. And I couldn't find an answer based on the teachings of other people. But when I delved into the scriptures, the knowledge came to me. The understanding came to me. And I was even shocked. This was something that's given to me recently. I would say in the last few months. So it goes to show that the Most High is revealing his end times to his people to let us know what truly is about to happen. So there'll be no surprises for us, because that's not how he operates. That's why he gave us the Bible. That's why he gave us the prophecies. So that there will be no surprises. And at the same time, we will do what we need to do to make ourselves ready. Be prepared. So without further ado, let's get started. And we're going to start with the book of Jubilees, the book of Yahawah, chapter 50, verse 4 and 5. I have ordained for you the years of weeks and the years and the Yahawah. There are 49 Yahawah from the days of Adam until this day, and 1 week and 2 years. Now before I move on to the blue highlight sentence, let me explain when he says from the days of Adam. Now, he's not reckoning the days when Adam was in the Garden of Eden, Adam and Yahawah, because time did not exist in the Garden of Eden. There was no sun. And if there was no sun, how was he able to tell time? Yes, we know that the Most High said he spent 7 years in the garden before he transgressed and was thrown out of the garden, him and Yahawah. But that's the Most High keeping record of time. But Adam himself did not keep record of time because there was no sun. There was no the sun and moon and the stars. The sun and the moon specifically, they are responsible for time beneath the dome, but not in the garden. Garden of Eden is a place where Adam and Yahawah lived in harmony with Abaraham, and where he is and where he dwells, there's no time, right? After Adam transgressed and was thrown out of the garden, he lived in the land of Elda, which was the land of where he was created. He was molded there. Then he was brought into the garden, him and Yahawah. That's when time started for them. So what the Most High is saying, from that point of time when Adam left the garden up to the time of him, Masha, going up to the Mount Sinai to receive the laws, the commandments, the statutes, the instructions of Torah, the instructions for building the tabernacle, and the ordinances. There were 49 Jubilees, 1 week and 2 years. Right? So now we have that cleared up. He went on to say, and there are 40 years yet to come for learning the commandments of Yahawah, until they, speaking of the children of Yasharaal, pass over into the land of Canaan, crossing Jordan to the west. So in addition to those 49 Yahawah or Jubilee years, the 1 week and 2 years, there were additional 40 years yet to come. Because those 40 years we know are the 40 years that they wandered around in the wilderness because of their transgressions and iniquities and disobedience and rebellion, until that generation died out. And the second generation passed over into the land of Canaan, which became Yasharaal, their land, our land. So when they entered into Yasharaal, that was the completion of the Jubilees up to a certain point of time. And we'll calculate and see how much time that was. Verse 5. Yahawah shall pass by until Yasharaal is cleansed from all guilt of fornication and uncleanness and pollution and sin and error, and dwells with confidence in all the land. Listen to these words carefully. Now I know this book, the book of Jubilees, is not in the Bible, and some people, it's apocrypha, we can put too much emphasis on it, but yet it mirrors the Bible. And just like the Bible, we have to be able to glean the truth, because we know they've messed with our Bible as well. They move things around, taken things out, put things in, changed the names. They did that to the Bible. And then they've brainwashed us to think that any other book except the Bible is not acceptable. Only the Bible is acceptable. When these books were written to give us a historical event, historical information about our people. All right? Do not throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like everything else, we need a Ruach HaKodesh to glean the information that's coming to us. You have to be able to chew and spit. So what he's saying in verse 5, I didn't finish it because there's a reason why. The Most High was telling Masha, the Yahawah, the Jubilees are going to go by. Yasharaal is going to lose track of the Jubilee years. But the time when they're going to regain calculation of the Jubilees, the Yahawah, it will be the time when they're cleansed from all guilt of fornication, uncleanness, pollution, sin, error, and dwells with confidence in all the land of Yasharaal. So when we are back in the land of Yasharaal, then we will know definitely the time, the era, the Jubilee year that we are living in. All right? We will know. We already have an idea that we are in the 119th Jubilee, heading towards the 120th Jubilee, which is the last Jubilee, the ending of the time, ending of the age. We know that. Because the 120th Jubilee is the 6,000th year here on the earth. And the Father said, Ha'aba said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever. I'm paraphrasing. Forgive me if I've missed a word here or there. He said, because he is flesh. In that he is flesh. And he gave us a timeline, 120 years. Yes, it pertained to Noah and the flood, but it also had a prophetic event attached to it. The ending of flesh, meaning when Adam was in the Garden of Eden, he was not flesh. No, he was not. He was glory. Remember, him and Hawa were created in the image of the Most High. The Most High is glory. Adam was glory. And that glory emitted and became a garment surrounding him. That was the essence of who he is. He was. Him and Hawa. When he transgressed the one law in the garden, he lost his glory. The light went off. And he was naked. So the Most High cloaked him and Hawa in flesh. And then he gave them animal skins. This was after they got out of the garden. So that their naked bodies now. Yes, he was naked because he didn't have the light anymore. So he had to give him the flesh so that when he went out of the garden, he would be able to tell hot and cold, hunger and thirst, because that's the nature of flesh. The nature of flesh is also sin. It is because of this flesh, the weakness of this flesh that is controlled by desires that aren't always from the Most High, that gets us into trouble. And that's why he said, you know what? I'm going to do away with this flesh once and for all and bring my people back to the way how they were when they were living with me in harmony in the Garden of Eden, with like Adam and Hawa. So he's telling us here when he's going to put to rest and do away with flesh. And that time will be the time when we will be dwelling in confidence in our land. Keep that in mind. There shall be no more Satan or any evil one, and all the land shall be clean from that time forever. So this is a period of time where there is no more evil, no more sin, no more shame. It's been vanquished. And it starts with the 1,000-year reign of Hamashiach, when Satan is placed in the abyss. He's sealed, meaning he can't speak. His beast and the false prophet were cast into the lake of fire. Though their armies were destroyed. And the world, the earth now had a peace for 1,000 years. Righteousness reigned for 1,000 years because Hamashiach came. Hamashiach. I'm speaking in the past. It's not in the past. It's the future. Forgive me. Hamashiach will be coming as king to reign on this earth for 1,000 years, setting up his government, his worship, his tabernacle, his people, once and for all. And establishing his people as kings, rulers, and priests, his priests. That's the time that is coming. It hasn't happened yet. We're not in our land. After the 1,000 years, Satan will be released. We know the story, and then he's going to gather his armies again, and just like that, the Most High himself is going to destroy them, cast them all into the lake of fire, and then he is going to renew the heavens and the earth, and he is going to bring down the new Yahawah from the heavens. And that is it. There'll be no more evil ever again. That's it in a nutshell. What we're trying to work out here are the sequence of events that would lead us up to that point of time. Because we've been told from various kinds of teachers, whether Gentiles or brethren, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. We're going to be out of slavery in 400 years. This is the 400th year. So yes, we're going to be set free. We're going to go into the wilderness and we're going to be there until, whenever. All these doctrines, all these things, teachings that have been put out there. And people are wondering, but wait a second, this is 2023 and we're still here. We're not even in the wilderness. Even if that was the case. And if you're like me, I'm like, what gives? Are we still under captivity? What's going on? What's happening? Is the Father lying? Are the scriptures lying? No, he never lies, and his scriptures will never lie. 400 years is 400 years. But what is wrong are the interpretations of the 400 years. The interpretations of the prophecies. Because he was not ready to give you the understanding until now. Because the time is at hand. Now we're going to look at some calculations of these 49 Yahawah years plus 1 week and 2 years. Here is the calculation of Yahawah according to the book of Yahawah. There are 49 Yahawah plus 1 week and 2 years. To understand these calculations, you have to understand the prophetic language first. That's the most important thing. The Most High spoke in prophetic language, parables, mysteries. It is not for the natural mind to understand. We cannot understand with a natural mind or breaking it down in a concordance what he's saying. Ruach HaKodesh has to reveal it to us. We know that, actually I'm jumping ahead of myself, so I'm not going to go there. You're going to see later on. Let's go on. Otherwise, you'll be lost in the calculations if you don't understand the prophetic language first. Now we have to understand what a Yahawah is. Yahawah is 49 years plus 1, making it 50 years. So the 50th year is the celebration of the Yahawah. In reference to Yahawah, there will be a mention of weeks. Those are actually calculated in multiples of 7. Therefore, 1 week is 7 years, 2 weeks are 14 years, 3 weeks are 21 years, and go on and so on and so forth. But it will not surpass the equivalent of 49 years, which are 70 weeks. The counting of the years will remain as is according to this particular calculation. That's why you have to know when it is years, when it is Yahawah years, right? We have to know, and he will tell us. You just have to ask him. Here are the calculations for the Yahawah years from the time of Adam leaving the Garden of Eden until the time of Masha going up to Mount Sinai to receive the laws and commandments and ordinances and the Thabawah and much, much more. 49 Yahawah years, you multiply 49 by 50 and you get 2,450 years, plus 1 week, which is the equivalent to 7 years, plus 2 years, and you have a total of 2,459 years when Masha received the law and commandments upon Mount Sinai for the 12 tribes of Yasharaal. Therefore, when they made it into the wilderness, yes, it was the 49th Yahawah plus 1 week and 2 years. The calculation then of the year of their exodus into the wilderness will be the 2,459th year. The children of Yasharaal received the commandments and traveled in the wilderness for 40 years. So let's add that to the total. 2,459 plus 40 gives you a total of 2,499 years when Yasharaal entered into the promised land. This gives them a small period of time, less than a year, to war against the inhabitants in the land and for them to be settled in their tribes and provinces. It would have been at the 2,500th year where they enjoyed their first Yahawah in their land, living in houses. So if you divide 2,500 years by 50, which is the Yahawah years, you will get the Yahawah year in which the children of Yasharaal entered into their land, the land of Yasharaal. They celebrated their first Yahawah in the land that same year in the 50th Yahawah. This calculation will help us to see the beginning of the Yahawah years from Adam, when he left the Garden of Eden, up to the point of time when Yasharaal entered into the promised land and dwelt there. Now, to figure out the last set of Yahawah years, we have to look to the book of Yahawah. So we're going to figure out the second part of the Yahawah years, because remember, it must total 120 Yahawah at the end, which is the same as 6,000 years. So if we've covered the 50 Yahawah years, the second part would obviously be 70 Yahawah years. Simple mathematics, right? Let's look at Yahawah, chapter 9, verse 2. In the first year of his reign, I, Yahawah, understood by books the number of the years whereof the word of Yahawah came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations, that's plural, not just once, in the desolations of Jerusalem. So let's see where that occurs in the book of Jeremiah. That would be chapter 25, verse 11 to 14. And this whole land, meaning the land of Yasharaal, shall be a desolation and an astonishment. Do you know why the Most High did that to Yasharaal, the land Yasharaal? Because the children, it would be the southern kingdom, did not keep the Shabbat of the land And if they didn't keep the Shabbat of the land, they had lost count of the Yahawah, and also obeying what the Yahawah was all about, which was to release either people that they had as slaves of their own brethren, or the land that was sold to them. They were disobedient. So the Most High got angry and said, okay, this is the 70th year. There are 10 cycles of Shabbat or Shabbathawath of land that you've missed. You have not kept. So now I'm going to let the land lay desolate for the equivalent of the 70 years that you've missed. You haven't kept it up. You have not kept my commandment. You've broken my commandment. So he caused the king of Babylon to come and destroy the temple and carried away the people captives. Jeremiah was one of them. But Jeremiah, before it happened, he gave the prophecy. And they didn't believe him. They didn't change their hearts. They didn't change their actions, obviously because their hearts were still wicked. And this prophecy that Jeremiah gave, now I can't say for certain, but I did some research. He gave the prophecy in 626 BCE. When the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, came, now there are discrepancy in the dates, because there are two dates. It was either 40 years, 30 to 40 years later. But it doesn't matter to me, because that's the past. It doesn't affect the prophecies. It doesn't affect anything for us today, except to know that Jeremiah gave the prophecy and it came to pass. But that is just one part of the prophetic event attached to these 70 years. So let's read on. And these nations shall serve the king of Babylon, speaking of the 2.5 tribes, 70 years. 70 years, the children, the southern kingdom had to serve the king of Babylon. And it shall come to pass when the 70 years are accomplished that I will punish the king of Babylon. And the nations, says Yahawah, for their iniquity, talking about the southern kingdom, and the land of the Chaldeans, and I will make it perpetual desolations. And I will bring upon that land all my words which I have pronounced against it, even all that is written in this book, which Jeremiah had prophesied against all the nations. Verse 14 gives you an insight as to what Yahawah was saying in the desolations of Yahawah. For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also. So not only the king of Babylon, but there were going to be more kings that were going to bring them into captivity. Hence the desolations, plural, of Yahawah. And I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their hands. Yahawah was pondering on the 70 years. Later on, we're going to see that the angel referred to it as 70 weeks. But we'll get to that when we get there. Let's go to Yahawah chapter 9. We drop down to verse 20 to 27. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people, Yasharaal, and presenting my supplication before Yahawah Alahai, my Elohim, for the holy mountain of Alahai, yes, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabarah Yaal, who is Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation. We know they had their sacrifices and oblation in the morning and in the evening. So this is the time that Yahawah came to inform him, Yahawah. Verse 22, and he informed me and talked with me and said, "O Yahawah, I am now come forth to give you skill and understanding." Here's where I have to refute a lot of teachings out there that tells you that you need to get understanding from a prophet or a teacher or a preacher, whatever they call themselves. There are people out there that say, you need to get your understanding from me. But that's not true. If you want to understand prophecy, you're not going to get the understanding from a person. You're going to get the understanding from the Ruach HaKodesh. In this case, the Most High sent an angel to give Yahawah, who was a prophet, trying to understand the prophecy of another prophet, but he just couldn't. So that goes to show, just because you're a prophet or you call yourself a prophet doesn't mean that you will have the natural or supernatural understanding of prophecies. Understanding of the word of the Most High comes from him. Hamashiach knew the days that were coming for his people were going to be dark days. So he released his Ruach HaKodesh to comfort us in our times of darkness, to be our counselor, to be the spirit of truth to us, to bring revelation of his mysteries, parables, and prophecies, so that we're not misled by false teachings. If you understand what I'm saying is not because of me, it is because of the Ruach HaKodesh who has given you understanding. People have it the wrong way around. They have the cart before the horse. He is only going to give understanding to those who belongs to him. And that's why we have all these false teachings out there. They take a little piece from here, a little piece from there, and mush it all together, and it becomes their prophecy, their revelation of the prophecy. But the fact of the matter is, to have the skill and understanding, being able to discern the truth, does not come from what you have heard from a person. It comes from the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, who has given it to you. Don't be confused. Just because you hear what someone is saying and it rings true to you, you know that it is truth, does not mean it's because of what that person has said. It is because the Ruach HaKodesh has given you insight. He's the one who turned on the light bulb. That's why some people will hear what Hamashiach was saying, and they'll walk away from him and say that he has Beelzebub. And then there are others that clung to him because they knew that he is Hamashiach, the son of the living Elohim, who gave them that understanding. Hamashiach himself tells us, or told us, it was the Ruach HaKodesh, the Father himself, through his Spirit. So don't think because you're hearing this person, you're like, oh, this person is really touting some truth out there. He's really spitting truth. No. It is because you understand the truth from the Ruach HaKodesh, who's teaching you simultaneously while you are listening. Now we have that out of the way. The prophet Yahawah, he was beloved of the Father. And he was a prophet, an authentic prophet, and yet he could not understand the prophecy of Jeremiah. And the angel had to come to explain it to him. So now you know, those people out there that call themselves, I'm a prophet, they're liars. You need to believe the words that I'm speaking, because the words that I'm speaking is truth. What kind of truth is that? That you want me to hang my hat on your words. All it is predictions. Anyway, I can go off track on there, but let's move on because we have a lot to cover here. Verse 23. At the beginning of your supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am now come to show you, for you are greatly beloved. Therefore, understand the matter and consider the vision. I included the prophecy of Jeremiah to give you an idea where Yahawah got his prophecy from. It came from the 70 years that he prayed about. It came from a book that Jeremiah wrote concerning the judgment that Yahawah had spoken against the southern kingdom of Yahawah. The northern kingdom was already in exile since 721 BCE due to the Assyrians conquering them. This prophecy from Jeremiah has a triple fulfillment attached to it. Some prophecies are doubled, meaning that there are two accounts of events to fulfill it. But in this case, there was a triple fulfillment of events. In the case of the 70 years, they are in reference to two different calculations of time. The first type of year is the regular 70 years, and the second type of year is in reference to Yahawah years. Jeremiah prophesied the judgment against Yahawah, the southern kingdom, which occurred during the time when both he and Yahawah were in captivity in Babylon. They were living out the prophecy. As I said here, they were both living in the fulfillment of this prophecy. They were living in the prophecy. And the southern kingdom had to be in captivity for 70 years to fulfill the missing Shabbathawath of the land. Okay, before I move on. Now, Yahawah knew that this was the prophecy of Jeremiah that had come true, that was being fulfilled. So why was he thinking and praying about it? Why? Because if you read, as we go back to the actual prophecy, the Most High said, for many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also. Now, he did not include that in his writing, but he would have read that. That's why he said 70 years in the desolations. This in Yahawah chapter 9 verse 2. 70 years in the desolations, plural, of Yahawah. So I can imagine that Yahawah in his mind was thinking, okay, we're in the midst of this prophecy being fulfilled. When will it be fulfilled again? Because he said desolations. Are we going to be in a perpetual state of captivity? Just like how we are today. We heard about our 400 years of captivity and we're wondering, when is it going to end? And many of us are praying about it. I've prayed about it because I'm thinking, well, according to what I've heard, it was supposed to end in 2018. But we're still here. So that was the mindset of Yahawah, to figure out, okay, you said desolations. Is it a perpetual fulfillment of this 70 years. But it was not. But look at verse 14 of Jeremiah 25. It said, "For many nations and great kings shall serve themselves of them also, and I will recompense them according to their deeds and according to the works of their hands." So the first fulfillment of this prophecy were the 70 years that the southern kingdom were in captivity in Babylon. So let's look at the second fulfillment of this prophecy. So this prophecy also came to pass in the year 70 AD. In other words, the year 70. Now, why on earth did they start the year, the counting of the year, according to the Gregorian calendar? It wasn't our people that did this. It was the Romans. They started and then they decreased the years until it became 0, and then they started the year again. They did that for a reason, so that they can miscalculate on purpose, and we can lose count of the year that we're in, the true year that we're living in. Remember, he said these people were going to come and change the times and the laws. It's already started. So we don't know for certain the exact year that we're living in because of how they played around with the calendar. Changing a year from 364 years to 365 years, and the length of a month and all these different things. They've changed it. Even the length of a day. A day used to be 18 hours, 90 minutes in an hour, and they changed it 24 hours in one day, 60 minutes in 1 hour, which means that we're losing time. We've lost time. And they did it like that on purpose. But we have a way back. Let's read on. Like I said, this prophecy also came to pass in the year 70 AD when Yahawah was conquered by the Roman Empire. So that's 2 fulfillments there. Yahawah said that kings plural would serve themselves of the southern kingdom, Yahawah, and they did, one after the other. But it is the timeline that I'm most interested in, as it tells us that Yahawah has his own prophetic clock that is triggered by events and not time. The third fulfillment of this 70-year prophecy of Jeremiah is yet to come. And here is more proof. All right, so let's read this. This is Yasharaal chapter 9, verse 24 to 27. Now, these 3 verses have created so much chaos and confusion and false teachings and deception. It will blow your mind. So let's get into it. 70 weeks, and I have weeks highlighted because it was not weeks that Yasharaal was praying about. It was 70 years. Funny, the angel came and said to him, 70 weeks. Did they change years to weeks? I'm most certain they did. I am 100% certain that they did. If they changed so much in the scriptures, change time, change everything, why not this? And that's why many people are thinking, oh yeah, 400, if it's 70 weeks, you multiply it by 7, that's 490 years. And that means if the Hamashiach is cut off in the 69, I'm going ahead of myself, I'm just reciting to you what is out there. Then it means we have the last 7 years, and the last 7 years, that's the Great Tribulation. And then, we'll be have a peace treaty. Israel is going to have a peace treaty, and halfway through the peace treaty, then the sacrifices are going to end, and so on and so forth. And you know what's happening in our land right now? Those people who are not our people, just like the year 1948, when Israel became a land, again. Through whom? The Zionists. And so the whole world thinks that the people living there are us, the true people of the book. They are not the true people of our book. And so the whole world now, they're looking to them and thinking, well, it fits hand in hand with the prophecy of Yahawah, the 70 weeks, the last 7 weeks, because those people there do not believe in the Messiah. They do not believe that he came, died, and rose again. And because they don't believe, they have to stay here and receive judgments until they believe. Not only that, they're also playing into this deception by bringing in the red heifers and planning to build a temple and setting up the sacrifices again. They're all playing into it. It is one big Hollywood production. That's all it is. Because if they're not the people of the book, all that they're doing is a Hollywood production to deceive even the elect. We can't look to them to know the time that we're living in. We have to look to the Word. The Word is our lamp and our light. And as long as you know the truth, you hold on to the truth. Let them do whatever they want to do. Soon they're going to be cleaned out of that land. Remember, he said the land will be cleansed. Right now, they're the Gentiles trodden down our land. That's prophecy. And the reason why they're doing it is because our forefathers were rebellious. So he scattered us and allowed them to come in and trod down our land. But he said he's going to come and get his revenge on them too, for all the wickedness that they've done in our land. He's going to destroy them. Most of them. And who isn't destroyed is going to run back to their land, to wherever they came from. Okay, let's go on. Let's look at this verse, these three verses. Quite intense, but I'll try to make it as simple as possible. 70 years, and I'm going to use years because this is the prophecy, are determined upon your people and upon your holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. A lot right there is being said. And this goes hand in hand with what? The book of Jubilees, chapter 50. Remember when we looked at this? And it talks about the Yahawah shall pass by until Yasharaal is cleansed from all guilt of fornication and uncleanness and pollution and sin and error, and dwells with confidence in all the land. There shall be no more Satan or any evil one, and the land shall be cleansed from that time forever. That there is the very end of time. Evil is no more. We're back in our land. And the same thing here. What the angel is saying to Yahawah, the 70th, the 70 weeks, the 70 years, the 70 Yahawah years, because that's what they are. The completion of those years, you're going to see this happening. Reconciliation for iniquity, everlasting righteousness. Sealing up the vision and prophecy mean everything is completed. All the visions and the prophecies about the end times are done, completed, finished. Doesn't mean that, before he said seal up the vision, it is not for you to know, so on. No, that's not the same kind of understanding here. When he said that, it means that it is completed. It is finished. The completion of it is finished, sealed. And to anoint the most holy, that is speaking of the sanctuary. And who is going to anoint the most holy but the anointed one himself, Hamashiach? And when is he coming? In the 6,000th year, to establish his kingship on this earth, and to establish his worship and his tabernacle and his people. All this is telling you these 70 Yahawah years, because that's what they are. The conclusion of them, this is what's going to happen. Now, what the angel was doing, he was giving Yahawah an itemized list of events, but he started from the end and he's working towards the middle, towards the 50th Yahawah. Right? So this is in a sequential order and also chronological order, but starting from the end and working towards the time of the 50th, around that time, the 50th Yahawah. All right. Let's go on to verse 25. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Yarushalayim unto Hamashiach Hanayagad the prince shall be 69 weeks. So let's pause there. So the next event of time, or the next event that will happen in this period of time, 69 weeks. Let's go to the first verse. Know therefore and understand that the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Yarushalayim. What time was that? That was the time of Ozariah, who is Ezra, and Nehemiah, when they were rebuilding the first temple that was destroyed. And he gave a clue as to how we know that it was that time. And I'll get back to that. So keep that as the beginning, and then the ending of that period would be 69th Yahawah, or the 69th year. Let's stick with Yahawah year so I wouldn't confuse you. Hamashiach Hanayagad came. That period of time, the 69th week, is what time when Hamashiach comes. Now, is this the time when he comes to set up his kingdom? No, it cannot be, because he's coming to set up his kingdom in the 6,000th year. So what could possibly happen at the 69th week, 69th year, 69th Yahawah year? What important event that the angel will want Yahawah to know? Because Yahawah was of the tribe of Yahawah, the southern kingdom. And what is set to happen any day now, very soon, is Hamashiach coming in the clouds to regather the southern kingdom. So the angel was giving Yahawah the period of time from the beginning of this particular Yahawah to the end of the 69th Yahawah was the time, not the end, to the 69th Yahawah, when Hamashiach will come to regather the southern kingdom. That's why it says, unto Hamashiach, unto the time when he comes to regather the southern kingdom. Now, we're going to get a little bit more into the dates as far as the Yahawah years. Not exact dates as in months and weeks, but the actual Yahawah years. So it become more, understandable for you. So the next verse here, the street shall be built again and the wall even in troublous times. And we know when Nehemiah was instructed by the king of Persia, hey, you can go ahead and rebuild your temple and the wall. There was some people, Sanballat, Tobias, and the Arabians, amongst other people, that were threatening them. So they had to arm themselves. They had one sword in their hand, and they were building with the other hand. So they were ready to fight, even while they were building. It was troublous times for them. So that's how we know it was the rebuilding of the first temple. Now let's look at verse 26. And this is the part that people get. They've gotten it so wrong. And that's because they're assuming that the 70 weeks are actually 70 weeks times 7, 490 years. And then I heard someone said something like, at this point in time, in the 62 weeks, that's when he paused. And then, But let's look at it the way how the Most High is truly revealing this verse. After 62 weeks shall Mashiach be cut off, but not for himself. Some are assuming that it means that he died. That's the time that he died and rose again. Impossible. It was not the time that he died and rose again. He said he was cut off, but not for himself. What does that mean? It means that the covenant he had with his people, the southern kingdom, was broken. It was broken. And when you see the timeline, you will see what happened to cause the covenant to be breached. But just know it has nothing to do with Hamashiach being crucified. That happened way before. This is in the 62nd week. And 7 weeks, the 62nd, the 62nd Jubilee. And by the 69th Jubilee, he's coming to regather his southern kingdom. We know that he died more than 2,000 years ago. How does that fit into the math here? It's just like the Christian church teach that he died on a Friday and rose again on a Sunday, even though the Bible says he rose 3 days. He died and he was ministering to those in prisons underneath the earth for 3 days, because he rose again on the third day. But when you do the math, Friday to Sunday, they are not 3 days. It's actually 2 days. So who's wrong? Are the scriptures wrong, or are the people wrong? Obviously, we're the ones that are wrong. Because if he said 3 days, 3 days, or 3 days, not 2 days. So if he died more than 2,000 years ago, then this prophecy here has nothing to do with him being crucified. It has to do with the covenant he had with his people. Something happened to cause him to be cut off from them. And we'll find out, don't worry. Let's carry on. And the people of the prince, that word again, Nagayad, who is a leader, and we know that this has to be Titus, that shall come, shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. And I looked at that in, I believe it was the last segment of the End Times